Her eyes sparkled with happiness as she tried on the engagement ring. He looked at her, certain this was the beginning of a new, beautiful life. Together they made plans, searched for a home, dreamed of children. Everything seemed perfect, until something foreign crept into her gaze. Secret messages, late-night walks, a shift in the tone of her voice. At first came doubt, then shock, and after that, a living nightmare. Betrayal? Yes. But the most terrifying part wasn't the infidelity itself, but how coldly and confidently she twisted everything against him. Manipulation, threats, attempts to destroy his life, literally. She stopped at nothing. Not even the police, court, or real criminal charges could make her let go. Hello, my friend. I'm so glad you stopped by my channel. If you're here for the first time, don't forget to subscribe and share this video with your friends or family. It really helps my channel a lot. Please tell me in which city or country you watch this video. I value every one of your comments. So let's get started. I'm a 34-year-old guy living a fairly ordinary life, working a stable office job. Until recently, I genuinely believed I'd found the woman I was meant to spend forever with. After 2 years together, I proposed to her last Christmas, convinced we shared the same core values: loyalty, respect, and honesty. For a time, everything felt ideal. We booked a wedding venue, started hunting for our first home, and she even moved into my apartment to save on rent. It all seemed like the foundation of a lasting future. But about 3 weeks ago, everything fell apart. One quiet Saturday night, I noticed something off about the way she was behaving. She became distant, glued to her phone with secretive smiles, and started making odd late-night outings with flimsy excuses. When I gently tried to bring up my concerns, she didn't try to reassure me. Instead, she lashed out defensively. The truth surfaced the next day, and it was worse than anything I could have imagined. I discovered explicit messages on her phone. She'd been sneaking around with another man from her gym for several weeks. When I confronted her, expecting at least some remorse, I was met with a smug smirk. She coolly said, "It was just a test of your love." I was stunned into silence. She spun the entire situation into some deranged loyalty test, claiming I had failed because I got angry rather than forgiving her immediately. Her arrogance was beyond belief. I told her the wedding was off and demanded she pack her things and leave my home without delay. She exploded in rage, accusing me of being ungrateful and narrow-minded. She tried to justify her cheating as some noble sacrifice she had made for our relationship. When yelling didn't work, she collapsed into tears, trying to manipulate me. But it was too late. I saw her clearly now. No excuses could erase the fact that she had betrayed me. I kept calm and told her she had 1 hour to vacate the premises, or I would call the police. Seething with anger, she hastily threw some belongings into a bag and stormed out. I locked the door behind her without hesitation. The next day, my phone was flooded with her messages, a non-stop barrage of apologies mixed with venomous insults. One moment she claimed, "You're my soulmate," and the next, she snapped, "You'll never find anyone better than me." She even went as far as threatening, "Don't push me, or you'll regret it." I didn't respond. I was completely done, though she clearly wasn't. Over the following week, she began stalking me at work, lingering in the parking lot, insisting we needed to talk. I refused every time. Then she pulled in mutual friends, trying to guilt-trip me into forgiving her and salvaging our relationship. I held firm. I refused to be anyone's doormat. Her entitlement only deepened. She shouted that I owed her a second chance, insisting I couldn't just discard our engagement like it meant nothing. She acted like I was breaching some legal contract. A few days later, I came home from work to find her stubbornly perched on my porch, arms crossed and glaring. "We need to talk," she barked. "You can't just ghost me. We're meant to be together. You failed my loyalty test. You proved you're weak." I clenched my jaw. "Leave now, or I'll call the police for trespassing," I said firmly. She sneered. "This is my home too," she lied. The reality was simple. I was the sole owner of the property. Her name was nowhere on the deed or any documents. Yet she acted like she had a claim to half of everything, even though we weren't married and she had broken my trust. To be certain, I contacted a lawyer friend who confirmed she had absolutely no legal rights to my home. There was no common law marriage, no shared ownership, nothing that tied her legally to me. My lawyer also advised me to start keeping detailed records, every unwanted visit, every harassing message, every confrontation at my workplace. If things got worse, a restraining order might be necessary. Unfortunately, things did get worse. She bombarded me with long, furious texts, painting me as the villain for failing her test and reacting poorly. One message sent a chill down my spine. "You owe me another chance. After everything I invested in us, if you don't let me come back, I'll tell everyone you abused me." My stomach twisted at the threat. She was willing to destroy my reputation if I didn't comply. I stayed silent, saved every message, and consulted my lawyer again. He assured me that her threats could be considered blackmail and defamation, and that if she followed through, I had grounds to sue. He also strongly recommended that I seek a protective order. I agreed, realizing I couldn't let her manipulate me any further. A few days later, I returned home to find scratch marks around my front door's lock, as if someone had tried to break in. Nothing seemed missing, but the invasion was terrifying. I immediately installed security cameras around the property. 2 nights later, those cameras caught her on tape, sneaking onto my porch, peering through my windows. I called the police immediately. They filed a report and once again advised me to file for a restraining order. They also officially warned her, if she came back, she could be charged with criminal trespassing. Her reaction was pure fury. She unleashed a storm of angry texts, saying things like, "How dare you involve the cops? You'll regret this." That was the breaking point for me. I collected all the evidence, the security footage, text threats, and police reports, and with my lawyer's help, filed for a restraining order. The judge granted it temporarily, forbidding her from coming near my home, my job, or me personally. I hoped that being served the papers would finally bring peace, but instead, she just shifted tactics. Anonymously, she contacted my supervisor, alleging that I was mentally unstable and that my personal struggles might interfere with my responsibilities at work. Having known me for many years, my boss quietly called me into his office, laid out the situation, and presented the email she had sent. It didn't take us long to figure out who was behind it. Fortunately, my supervisor had complete faith in me. I gave a straightforward explanation. An ex-fiancé was attempting to sabotage my career. He exhaled wearily and cautioned me to stay alert. It was clear by then that she was grasping at anything to regain control she had long since lost. Before long, she escalated her efforts, spreading malicious rumors among our mutual acquaintances, accusing me of abandoning her after a supposed pregnancy, which was an outright lie, and falsely claiming I had stolen from her. A few friends, concerned, approached me directly. I showed them the disturbing messages she had previously sent, and they were quick to apologize for ever doubting my word. Her behavior deteriorated even further. She tried to guilt me over the expenses from our canceled wedding, money that was already irretrievable. She even had the audacity to demand compensation for her emotional anguish and the time investment she claimed I had wasted. I could only give a grim chuckle at the irony. The very person who had betrayed and threatened me was now seeking a payout. Even after securing a restraining order against her, she persisted. She began lurking in places she knew I frequented, like the parking lot at my gym. One night, as I walked to my car, I spotted her leaning against a lamppost, arms crossed tightly over her chest. "You really think a piece of paper can stop me?" she sneered. "This isn't finished," she spat. Without responding, I calmly pulled out my phone and began recording. Upon realizing what I was doing, she lunged at me, trying to knock the phone out of my hand. "You're pathetic," she hissed. "Just take me back." Desperation seeping into her voice, she tried to bargain. I'll drop everything I've said. Of course, these were accusations she had only threatened but not yet made formally. I stayed composed and informed her, "You're violating the restraining order right now." Cursing under her breath, she turned and fled before the police could arrive. I carefully saved the footage as additional evidence. A lawyer friend advised me to file a motion for contempt of court, citing her violation of the protective order. He also warned that if she made any false charges, we would be ready to countersue. I agreed. We began the legal steps to not only reinforce the restraining order, but possibly escalate it to a permanent injunction. Progress was slow, but momentum was finally on my side. Not long after, I got a call from an unknown number. It was her mother. "You're ruining my daughter's life," she said bitterly. "She made a mistake, and you're blowing it all out of proportion. She deserves a second chance." The absurdity of her words almost made me laugh. A mistake? Cheating and months of harassment were not minor lapses in judgment. I refused to argue. Calmly, I replied, "Your daughter needs professional help, and she must stay away from me." Enraged, her mother threatened to sue me for emotional distress. I knew they had no grounds. Let them try, I thought. Soon after, I discovered unauthorized transactions on my credit card, expensive electronics ordered to an unfamiliar address. I acted immediately, contacting the bank to cancel the card and open a fraud investigation. It didn't take long for the fraud team to trace the purchases to one of her relatives' addresses. That was the last straw. I handed over all the evidence to the authorities. Identity theft was a serious criminal matter. The police officer handling my case informed me they would soon interview her, and if the evidence connected her to the crime, charges would be filed. Meanwhile, the court date for her violation of the restraining order arrived. She tried to play innocent, claiming she had been in the gym parking lot by coincidence. In response, I presented the video recording, clearly showing her issuing threats. The judge wasn't swayed by her performance. He not only extended the restraining order, but also imposed even stricter terms: zero contact, whether direct or indirect. She shot a venomous glare at me across the courtroom but said nothing. About a week later, the police finalized their investigation. The fraudulent purchases were definitively linked to her. She was charged with misdemeanor fraud. Panic clearly set in. She began sending frantic emails from a newly created account, pleading with me not to testify and promising to drop everything if I agreed. I forwarded each message to my lawyer and the police, each one only worsening her position. Cornered, she made a reckless final move, showing up at my workplace in blatant violation of the restraining order. She attempted to storm into the building's lobby, screaming that I had destroyed her life and that I owed her security and shelter. Security personnel swiftly intervened and held her until the police arrived. There would be no sympathy for her this time. With new criminal charges stacking up alongside repeated restraining order violations, her leverage was gone. The district attorney's office took special interest once the trespassing and fraud charges were added. They offered her a plea deal: plead guilty, accept penalties, and agree to a permanent no-contact order. Her own attorney, likely exhausted by her antics, advised her to take it. At the final hearing, I sat beside my attorney, watching the final act unfold. She appeared before the court, disheveled and defeated, a far cry from the bold, arrogant figure she once was. Her eyes darted around nervously as the district attorney laid out the full case against her: the recordings, the fraudulent activity, the harassment, and the multiple violations of the court's orders. The judge addressed her with stern gravity. "Your actions have been reckless and dangerous," he said. "You're fortunate that the harm you caused remained emotional rather than physical. Do you comprehend the seriousness of what you've done?" All she could do was nod, meek and broken. The court sentenced her to probation, mandated counseling, ordered full restitution for the stolen funds, and imposed a permanent no-contact order, bringing a long and painful chapter to a close. She had been given a strict warning: Any further misconduct would see her thrown into jail. As the gravity of the judge's words registered, her face crumpled. She understood instantly that she had ruined everything: my trust, any fleeting hope of reconciliation, and even her right to move through life without legal constraint. When I exited the courthouse, a surge of emotions hit me, a mix of relief and deep revulsion. Her relentless entitlement had finally crossed a line into criminal behavior, and all because she refused to take responsibility, refused to admit that her so-called test was nothing more than deliberate, cruel manipulation. She had employed every dirty trick imaginable: blackmail, lies, character assassination, yet in the end, she was exposed and forced to face the consequences. After it all unraveled, I replaced the locks on my doors, upgraded my home security system, and turned my energy toward reconstructing the life she had tried so hard to destroy. A few mutual friends reached out to express regret for ever believing her lies. Others simply vanished, unwilling or too ashamed to take a stand. I didn't mind either way. The ordeal branded a harsh lesson into me about trust, and how easily love can be twisted into something toxic when placed in the wrong hands. Legally, I was now protected. She was barred from coming near me, contacting me, or attempting any form of harassment, with the threat of instant imprisonment hanging over her head. Financially, I absorbed some losses from the wedding that would never happen, but I considered that a small price to pay for reclaiming my peace and freedom. Emotionally, the wounds ran deep, yet I emerged more resilient, more vigilant, and infinitely wiser. In time, I would heal, meet new people, and give my heart to someone truly worthy. Seeing her break down under the weight of the judge's harsh words gave me the final closure I needed. She realized, far too late, that she hadn't merely challenged my love. She had challenged my dignity, my resilience, and my resolve to reject mistreatment. She failed on every front that counted, and now she would have to live with the enduring consequences of her own arrogance. This story has come to an end. What's your opinion? Share it in the comments, my friend. And if you liked this story, check out other exciting videos on my channel. I'll say goodbye until the next video. See you.